Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Sir Cypher here, and this is a multiplayer replay that was posted in the thread, and I'm going to upload it along with my Let's Play of, I'll just start it, but of Mission 7, because I'm going to try and avoid revealing to everybody just how bad I am at Company of Heroes just yet, so gonna show somebody who's not me. And maybe in the intervening time I can get a little better before I have to embarrass myself. So if I'm not mistaken, Buff Butler is posting in the thread, hating on the British, and he is playing as Ware, and COHgirl93 is another goon, but I don't think she's, well, she or he has posted in the thread yet, and they're playing as Panzer Elite. And I'm assuming these are two puppies. Now, pretty standard opening for the Wehrmacht player. Going dual engineer into building a heavy machine gun. And we've got standard grenadiers going on over there. For the American player, just a barracks on one engineer, which I prefer to do. I don't like to go two engineers as Americans. And a Bren carrier for the British with an infantry section. And I don't really like Bren carriers that much. I understand that they're good, but they don't really go well with my playstyle. So these engineers shooting at this cat and crab guy who just doesn't give a fuck. He's just like chilling out there. Those engineers have to back off because obviously these Panzer Grenadiers are pretty good in this building. Panzer Grenadiers, especially with these Wehr-43s, are really good in buildings, because the downside of buildings is there's only so many windows. So if you put a rifleman squad in this building, depending on where the enemy is, not all of the guys are going to be able to shoot out of the windows. But there's only 3 guys in a Panzer Grenadier squad, and they're all pretty powerful, so you get a lot of good firepower coming out of those windows. But the enemy's in cover here, so I don't know if he's going to be able to dislodge them. They're in pretty good cover. Up here, this Bren carrier is up here, trying to wrap around this machine gun, but I think that's a bad idea with these engineers here. He hasn't upgraded it yet with the Vickers gun, which is an upgrade you can give the Bren carrier, turns it into like a real machine gun. So it's the little Bren gun it's got on it. It's not going to do anything against that. So that gets taken out. That was a stupid move by the British player. He should have loaded his recon section into it and then popped them out behind the machine gun. Then he might have been able to take it out. But he has to retreat. The Schwimmwagen's following him. Over here, these Americans are still in cover fighting these guys, but Panzer Grenadiers are tough. He really needs to... If you're going to get Panzer Grenadiers, you just can't fight them straight up like this, even if you're in green cover. As the Americans, you have to flank them. But he didn't. He just kept all his guys in the trench. So he was forced out of there. Because the Panzer Grenadiers are a lot more accurate at long range than the Americans are. So we've got the Schwimmwagen, which is the reward unit you can take instead of the motorcycle. You've probably seen the motorcycle, at least some, on multiplayer. So the British player is trying to build a mortar emplacement here, but this is a pretty stupid place to build it. He should build it behind his command truck, because either way it's going to be able to hit over there, and right now it's just completely exposed. And again, one squad of rifles isn't going to be able to do anything to this. He could have this rifles fighting in the middle or something. So yeah, all these guys are pinned down. Buff Butler even building sandbags for his machine gun. And again, this British player's. He should be, if he was gonna build them, if he had built the mortar pit back here, he'd be in a good situation right now. But he didn't, so his guys are all just pinned. So this guy just sending all his rifles over in a big blob, but he's coming with engineers with a flank. So that's actually going to be pretty effective. And he might be able to burn these guys. Yeah, he burns these guys out of his house. So it looks like if the American player can... This is a forward barracks for the Panzer lead. If the American player can take this, decap this forward barracks, that's going to be a pretty big blow. And you see these riflemen. Riflemen have the fastest capping speed in the game. So they're able to capture. They're able to exploit any enemy retreats very quickly. Again, this British player, I don't know why he has all of his infantry guys sitting in this trench. If he wants to get away, all he has to do is click retreat, because retreat breaks suppression. So he can retreat even if he's right next to this command truck, and then build a mortar pit back here or something. But he's not. He's just chilling there for some reason. The American player on the advance. Looks like the Panzer elite player started building a group, a company. But then they stopped. So but the American player has to retreat there, but the American player's gotten a lot of territory. And hopefully, really if I was the American player, I would drop all of this and I go flank this German player up here, because really your British player's out of the game right now, and if you pulled off a good flank, you could get him back in the game. Of course, looks like Buff Butler's one step ahead, and he's got this machine gun covering the rear. But still, the American player could have pulled off a good flank. They could have come from here, from this side, and from down here. They've got this Jeep, which I don't know why the Jeep's just going in there by itself. That's not going to be able to do anything. Something smart that Buff Butler has going on here. You see that actually the Panzer elite's coming to take rid of this flank, but he has his Schwimmwagen here, and that's what's taking all the enemy damage, because there's pioneers right here that can just repair it. So he doesn't have to waste munitions on med packs. He doesn't have to retreat his troops. As long as the British player chooses to just shoot at the Schwimmwagen, his pioneers can just repair it every couple seconds, and he never has to retreat any units to take damage, because he can just repair the Schwimmwagen. So yeah, I mean, notice if your opponent's doing that. If your opponent just puts a vehicle like a Jeep out front, or a motorcycle, or a Ken Credit, or Bren carrier, unless you're pretty sure you can just straight up kill it, you shouldn't shoot at it first. You should kill the infantry first. Because if they can just pull it back a little bit and repair it and bring it back, you'll just see like he's just repairing it. If anything, you should be shooting at the engineers repairing the Schwimmwagen, because this is just not doing anything. He could just sit here all day. Anyway, the American player coming back with a pretty strong counterattack. The Panzer elite player has 2 Kettenkrads, which gives him a lot of capping power, but again, he can't fight all these riflemen. There's too many riflemen. For some reason, the American player, and I see a lot of players do this online, is he doesn't have a triage center, and I always think that's a big mistake. I think you should always build triage centers as Americans. You save so much manpower by having these full health squads of riflemen. For example, like this right here, this rifleman squad is almost at half health, and the triage center will get that to full health for basically free. But again, this British player is still being stupid, and is just keeping units getting pinned for the hell of it. But the American player helps him out and launches an artillery barrage, and that makes him back off. I'm assuming that's the American player did that. Let's see here, which one of these guys is. Can't tell. Oh, maybe the British player is So I guess the British player must be artillery company, and they must have chosen the upgrade that lets their lieutenants call down artillery. Because I don't see how else that could have worked. I thought the American player went infantry company and called in artillery on it, but it looks like the LT did it. But even though the British player is getting owned, the fact that the American player was so aggressive means that the Allies actually have all 3 strategic points. And in 2-player games, most of the time it comes down to strategic points. Unless somebody base rushes, most of the time it's going to come down to strategic points. But again, the British player running in here, I'm not sure why he chose to get Bren guns as the upgrade for his infantry. If he had gotten rifle grenades, this situation would be very different. The Buff Butler doesn't have just wads of infantry and light vehicles. He has machine guns and emplacements behind cover, and rifle grenades would be very effective. But for some reason he chose to get Bren guns. We've got a lot of Panzer Grenadiers here, but with no weapons upgrades. And we have an armored car here, and I don't think the Panzer Elite has anything way to deal with that. We have a mortar half-track, which is a questionable choice, because there's nothing that really needs to get mortared. This whole situation is pretty much contained. I think like an AT or an infantry half-track might have been a better choice, because there's really nothing to deal with this M8 armored car unless it wanders over here into this anti-tank gun. But we have a STA now, so maybe they're just trying to take out this British player as quickly as possible, so they can focus on the American player. Not sure what that retreat was for. Maybe he just didn't want his guys to get killed by this armored car. American player builds a machine gun emplacement here. I never like to see machine gun emplacements because they cost fuel. Unless you just overloaded with fuel. See, the British player has plenty of fuel, but obviously they can't spend it on anything now because their headquarters just got destroyed by this stuff. So it looks like Buff Butler's Blitzkrieg Doctrine. The American player doesn't have any fuel, so I don't know why he wasted 20 fuel on a machine gun emplacement. But he's finally building the triage center, and he has the motor pool. So the the British player is now putting a truck over here, where hopefully the American player can protect it.
The enemy is down to 300 points.
But this armored car should not have come over here by itself. That's pretty stupid. I see that a lot. People get overconfident. Like, they build a tank or they build an armored car and they don't think the enemy has any way of dealing with it. So they get overconfident and they just drive it into the enemy base or into the enemy's army.
One of our sectors,
and that's a pretty big loss, that armored car. I think the American player might have been a little better off just holding off to get the tank depot and just getting the Sherman, because he didn't really need that armored car. The Panzer Elite player didn't really have anything that was a big threat to him. So if he had held off for a Sherman, then he wouldn't have. He'd be able to deal with this stuff. He'd be able to kill all these machine guns. So he'd be in good shape. But he got an armored car, and I think that was not necessarily a good decision. So it looks like we have now the German players got this high ground, and the Americans have the little town here, the Allies. Really, it's just the Americans. The British are basically only surviving because the American player is pretty aggressive. Okay, this little chain thing here means that you can set your lieutenant to follow units. You click on this button and the LT will just follow a unit around, and you never want to do that. You always need to physically tell your LT where to go. And if you can't handle that much, like if you can't handle telling your lieutenant to, like, stay in range of your guys but not get killed, you shouldn't be playing British. So, you know, just... Okay, well, the enemy mortar half-track gets a little close. And, the British player buttons it, but he doesn't really have any way of killing it. And, so I don't think he's... I'm pretty sure it's going to get away. And he dropped the Bren gun, which could be a kind of a costly mistake if these grenadiers pick it up. Yeah, they picked it up, so... That was dumb. I don't know why he's not retreating these guys. He should get them out of there. One small note, the enemy this guy finally built a triage center. If you're playing as, say, British, and your ally is Americans, if you have wounded troops, I mean, normally it's not worth it because you want to get them into combat, you can heal them at your ally's triage center. So the American player is BARs, which are going to be pretty good against these grenadiers. This mortar half-track's coming back here, which he really should probably get that mortar half-track repaired a little bit. Because it's one, there's Piats here, it's one sticky bomb away from being dead. So, oh, a good grenade throw there by the American player. Took out an entire squad of grenadiers. Well, no, that guy's the last guy. But we got a STA over here, which is going to chase off all these rifles. We have an anti-tank gun, but this anti-tank gun is going to get taken out by these Panzer grenadiers. I don't know if the American player has any other way of hurting the STA. He should get a, he should grab somebody on this anti-tank gun. Well, okay, the British player is Piats. So, there's not really actually much up here right now. They could probably take back, the American side could probably take this back. But I think they're more concentrated on not losing the middle. So the Wehrmacht player is still on tier 2. I'm not sure if he's gotten the upgrade that'll let him get tier 3. But he has veteran C2 infantry. So that is pretty good. And veteran C1 support units. Hopefully these pioneers get out of here. And these pioneers get out of here before they get killed. Kettenkrad needs to get out of there before he gets killed. This sniper, also he needs... This British player could pay... Yeah, the British player... Recon sections for the British, they have a thing that costs 25 munitions that they can use to snipe a unit, just like a sniper.